Hey everyone, Correct Genes here, and we have a very special lock today. This is a Fichet Bauche, hope I said that right, M2B safe lock. Now this is a different Fichet than other locks like the Fichet 450 series or the Fichet 3D or the 787. It's a different company. This is a company that makes almost exclusively safes, and this is a mechanical lock in there for their safes. It consists of 7 active wafers as well as 1 passive wafer, and these wafers are both pushed to a depth by these fins on the key, as well as pushed to an angle by these additional little fins on the side. And you can see, if I can get it to focus, that there are different amounts of material in both sets of fins. So we might or might not actually pick this lock all the way 360 degrees, which would involve picking it 8 times. But I'd say it's more likely than not that we'll just go ahead and do it because, you know, we're already here. Why not? So anyway, without further ado, let's... Oh, forgot to mention. I'm also going to be using a couple custom tools. I'm going to be using this tool here in order to manipulate the wafers in a way that lets me sort of freely, push them back and forth and up and down. And I will also be using a tension tool here in order to get in here and tension the lock. Alright, now we're going to get it clamped up and picked. Alright, here we go. I'm going to start here with the tension, I suppose, and we're going to be using very heavy tension because that is what is required for this lock. So starting with that very heavy tension, we're going to start probing wafers. 1 is binding. I'm going to define them in counterclockwise direction from 1 to 7. Okay, 1 is springy now. 2, a little stiffness but not going anywhere. 3 is binding. Okay, 3 is loose now. 4 is loose. Let's check 1 again. 1 feels like it could be stiffer in the pushing direction, but still has a little ways to go. 2 is, well, was binding but isn't now. A lot of times what will happen is these things will bind up for like at the top of their movement, and then as soon as you touch them they just stop binding. Okay, 6 was binding pretty heavily. As soon as I pushed them, stopped binding, but seems to be holding itself under its own spring tension right now. 7 is binding pretty heavily. Alright, 7 stopped binding. Alright, 6 is still springy where he is. Let's get in with a different tool, try to manipulate 5, or 4. And 4 isn't doing anything. 3 is still loose. 1 bound for a little bit, then stopped. 2 is binding. Alright, I think I got 2 moved maybe 1/10 of a millimeter and then they stopped binding. 1 is binding. Alright, I moved 1 a tiny bit and it stopped binding. Alright, sorry, not 1, that's 7. And 6 isn't doing anything right now. 4 isn't doing anything. 3 seemed bound for a tiny bit. I got a little bit of a push there and then it clicked and stopped binding. That's usually a good sign. 2 isn't doing anything. It is holding its rotation, but it's not pushing. 1 bound a little bit pushing, but is otherwise loose. Alright, 3 pushed a little bit and then stopped binding. Oh, there we go, okay. A little bit on 3. 6 is loose. 7, I'm just going to push 7 in like that. 7 keeps binding outside and then dropping back out, so I'm just going to leave him inside like that. Alright, 4. Sorry that my hand is sort of covering, it's hard to get a good angle on this. 4 is loose. 1 is loose. 2 bound a little bit, but isn't ready to go anywhere. 3. 3 is loose in rotation. Oh, yeah, no, 3 is just completely loose. 6 is loose. 7 is loose. He's not doing anything. Back to 1. 1 is loose. 2 is binding. Okay, 2 stopped binding. What I'm doing is I push it down a little bit and then I sort of scan it with the rotation to see if anything happens. Nothing did. Three is loose in rotation but feels like it should be pushed. Okay, got a little push, now it's loose. 4 feels loose. Let's go ahead and see if we can't probe in here for 5 a little bit. Okay, I got 5 pushed in, but now it's springy. Oh. 7 just sort of launched itself back out, but it's now feels pretty loose in there. So does 6. Back to 1. 1 feels stiff where it is. Now it doesn't. 2 bound a little bit, is now loose. 3 is loose. Okay, I'm gonna attempt to switch my tensioning location, which is very risky because as soon as you change where you tension from, the binding order shifts a little bit and you find yourself just losing pins that you already dropped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a wiper insert here and wedge it in. And yeah, you can see stuff dropping. And I'm going to try putting it at position 7. And hope that I don't have to pick wafer 7 ever again. Oh, I don't know if that's all the way in. Yeah, that's pretty close. Okay. Cool. Now we're going to work from here again. 1 dropped, so we're going to check 1. Okay, 1 is about back where we had them before. 2 dropped. Doesn't want to get pushed in. 3 dropped and is loose. 4 was never set. 5 I believe we pushed in at one point, but needs a little more. In that, like, it got unset. Let's get in here with this other pick. Okay, 5 is sticking. Should be able to get him with the wedge pick now. Okay, I felt 5 click into place a little bit. No, it still feels kind of stiff. It clicked into place somehow, but I don't think it's all the way. We'll deal with 5 later. Alright, I think 1... Yeah, I think this is where 1 sets. Let's check 2 again. 2 bound a little bit, and then nothing else. 3. 3 is loose. 4. 4 is loose. 5. I'm just making sure I get him with the inside of the wedge here. I felt something give on 5 right there. 6 is loose. Okay. Let's check 2 again. 2 is binding a little bit. Okay. Nothing on 3. 4 is binding. Alright, 4 stopped binding. 3 isn't binding. 5 isn't binding. 2 isn't binding. 1 is not binding. Six is not binding. 4 is binding. I got a little click on 4 and something happened. I saw these other pins sort of shudder a little bit when that happened, so I think that they're finally binding up now. I apologize for the length of this pick. It really is not an easy way to do this quickly. Well, there is. I'll actually put a link in the description. There are Sputnik type picks for this form of lock, but I do not have one. Okay, a little something out of 2 there. Okay, 3 isn't doing anything. 4 isn't doing anything. Okay, I heard something click. That was not the pin I was working on. But, you know, always a good sign. I think it might have been 2 here. Okay, a little movement out of 3. 4 is loose. Got a little something out of 2. 1 isn't doing anything. A little more out of 2. 5 is loose. 4 is loose. Got a little something out of 3. nice binding on 2. I felt them move into place somewhere, so hopefully that's where they sit. Three isn't doing anything. Nothing on 4. Nothing on 5. 2 is binding. Okay, I think 2 is good. Alright, I think 1 is good. Okay, I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to try changing tension location again. Here goes nothing. Ooh, good thing I didn't let go there. Oh, stuff's dropping. Alright, we have moved. I think I saw 2 get knocked out of place. There we go. 1 got knocked out of place. Ooh, 1 is really binding. Alright, that was it. And the lock is picked. You can see it is moving. That took a while. I guess since we're here now, might as well do it all the way. So I'm going to go ahead and start the counter, and that's 1/8 of a turn. I'm not going to do this all live. I'll probably do it over a few sessions, but yeah, we're going to try to get this guy to a full 360. Here goes nothing. Okay, I think we have maybe 1 wafer left. Just gotta find out where it is. It's one of the... There it is. Oh, oops, caught my pick. Alright. Almost there. Well, almost there in that we're a quarter of the way there. Onwards. Alright, that's 3. sorry, smacked the camera. That one opened rather suddenly. That one also took a really long time. Oh, it already locked on the next section. Halfway. I need a break. Scares me every time, god damn it. Getting there. We have passed halfway. Finally. I really need to figure out more productive things to do with my time. Alright, man, this is not getting faster, is it? Okay, 2 more. All right, 1 more to go. We're almost done. Hooray! Alright, I think that's it. That's number 8. We have picked this all the way around. Why we did this, I honestly couldn't tell you. I wouldn't do it again. Before this gets too long though, let's go ahead and gut it so you can see what's inside this nifty little lock. Alrighty. So of course the annoyance extends on the gutting because we have Torx screws. I'm prepared. I've been sitting here for I think over 4 hours, so I apologize if I'm a little bit loopy because that was a lot of picking. This lock does not pick quickly, unfortunately. Maybe I'll try to give you guys some soothing music for the sped up portions, because of course I'm not going to make you sit through all of that. Not that any of you would. I'd be very impressed if you did. forgot to bring a flathead. Oh well. So, a little bit about this lock. There are, of course, 7 active wafers, 1 passive wafer. The passive wafer is used in order to keep the key as extra spring tension in order to make sure that the key is nice and locked in at the correct location. This thing gets really wedged in, so you got to kind of pry it out. There we go. I have a special new tray coming in the mail, but unfortunately it is not here yet. Alright, there it is. You can see 8 springs sticking out, and then this little thing which holds the springs in. So let's take care of those first. These are all a little bit mangled because they've been taken in and out multiple times. This is the extra strong spring that goes over the passive wafer. And every single wafer in here is on a track and is allowed to rotate around a ball bearing. Let's go ahead and get this thing out, which will make it a little bit easier. So you can see in here that there are multiple grooves. Let's see, where is the passive pin? Okay, I think that's the passive pin. Alright, so let us start getting these out without losing a ball bearing, ideally. Nope, I think it needs to rotate the other way. There's a little ledge up here that I need to get these around in order to get them out. Here we go. Alright, so you can see that it has this little ball bearing on here that it sits in, and there's a vertical track that keeps this rotation fixed around the ball bearing and allows it to slide up and down as well. Now, the way this was sitting in here was, it's hard, it's very confusing to work with this. The way this was sitting in here was, I believe, like, you know what, I forgot. We're going to do it with the next one. This is what happens when you pick for 4 hours straight. Alright, here's number 1. Just going to put them right there. Let's get number 2. So you can see that there is a side here that's sticking out. Ah, that's right, okay. So there are 2 independent tracks that these need to be aligned with. There's the side here that sticks out, and there's a side at the top as well. So the side at the top needs to align with this track here. So you can see it in there. It's allowed to rotate when it's in this position. So this is what it's like when it is properly set. So there's the groove on the side, and then there's the groove in the front. And it needs to be properly lifted and rotated in order to align with both grooves. And then, of course, the lock can turn. Like so. Hopefully you could see that. It was a little dark from what I saw on the camera, but we're working on fumes here, so bear with me. Let's go ahead and get the rest of these out. The complicated shape of these also is not particularly helpful when it comes to picking it, because they have a tendency to bind and release binding pressure in many, many places. Sorry, I'm so quiet. I am just exhausted. Let's not mess up this order here. And then last we have this one. Kind of want to leave this one in just because it's really annoying to put back into the lock, but just for you guys, take it out, or try at least. Come on. There we go. This is the passive wafer, which just sort of aligns and makes the key feel good. Anyway, that was a slog. If you're still with us, hope you enjoyed. Let me give you a better look at this too, and how this sits in here. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a good one.